Good afternoon. Welcome to Wellness Wednesdays with CAPS here at Mercy University. My name is Ruvan, and we'll be talking a little bit about homesickness and loneliness today. I know it's hard to believe, but we're already 3 weeks into this new semester and the new year. A lot has gone by. I know that 2021 has been an exciting year for many reasons. I'm sure all of y'all have had great occasions over this past summer, spring, graduations, internships, and so forth. So I think it's helpful to take a minute and just say it's all right that we're still not quite sure what's in store, and it's also, as I keep saying, it's okay to not be okay. There's no shame in that. I know that we're just, again, barely into September, but there's a lot of thoughts about kind of what the summer looked like, or even what the past spring looked like, and that's okay. I said we're going to talk a little bit about homesickness, but there also means just the thought of, wow, I'm thinking back to things that I remember being better or more fond of. Homesickness is something that I think a lot of times we may associate with just the first time going through things, and yeah, maybe especially true for freshmen. But there's also a lot of people that are sophomores, juniors, or even people starting graduate programs who say, I just feel a bit of memory and fondness for things that were there before and that I don't have now. So I'm going to ask you to join me as we talk a little bit about what does homesickness look like? How does it relate to loneliness? What are the best ways to really think about it and deal with it, but at the same time make sense of it? If you have any comments, questions, please type them out. Respond as we go along. One of the big things to remember about all of these conversations we're having on Wellness Wednesday is that we love kind of hearing your feedback, and as there's more things that come up, or more things that that you feel are important, we'd love to hear them. So first of all, kind of just reflect a little bit on that word homesickness. It's pretty loaded because it has sickness, and a lot of people might say, "Oh, you shouldn't be homesick," or say, "Well, that's just something that's just going to be there for a bit, and you'll kind of go go away soon." Or feel like, "Oh, that's just not important," or it's not anything to worry about. Or even a harsher phrase of people saying, "You shouldn't feel that way. Why are you homesick? That's silly, right?" As I said, and I always keep saying, it's okay to not be okay, but also, everybody has their own experiences. I'm sure you probably met some students who, as soon as they stepped foot on Mercer campus, they said deuces to their parents, and that was it. They were like, "I'm not being here." Some others may have been the other extreme, where it's like, "Wow, I just, got here, things are okay, but I just keep thinking about what my parents are doing, or what's happening with my friends, or even what's happening with my school, or people back home in the neighborhood I knew." That's all right. We think about homesickness, maybe a better way to phrase it is just longing or memories of memories from the past. We share that with somebody. When we say we're homesick, a lot of times people will say something quick, like they say, "Oh, just stay busy," or "Don't think about it," or "I'm sure people are fine." People are often saying that because they may be trying to offer some support, and that may be their way of trying to let you know that okay, you'll be all right, but may not be actually helpful for somebody who is feeling a lot of homesickness, a lot of longing, or remembering back to kind of fond memories and what else has been going on for them. They're saying, "Wow." So sometimes kind of hearing that is like telling a person that's unhappy with their appearance, to just lose weight. It's not really helping the person. So if you're somebody that's again feeling a bit of homesickness, or as I said, feeling a bit of longingness for pastimes, I think there's a few things that we'll talk about today that might be helpful, and also good to keep in mind. One of the first things to remember is that there's no quick fix, and I think that's maybe the best way to put this. That homesickness, longingness, being lonely, or remembering back to past times that felt more better. A lot of times we may say, okay, well let me try and do something really quickly to address that feeling, and that's understandable. But that doesn't mean that that's always going to be helpful. A quick fix might be like saying, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to not think about it. I'm going to go, read some stuff for tomorrow's class. I'm going to go just, talk to a friend and kind of not even think about this. If you're having a lot of occasions where your mind goes back to kind of what happened on the summer or what's happening at home, it's alright to kind of spend time with those thoughts. We're going to break down kind of what to do into two kind of different areas today. The first is things that you can do here, meaning while you're here on campus, or kind of with people you like, or in Macon, or broadly speaking, just basically when you're not home. But we'll also talk about things you can do with people who are back home, or back wherever your memories may be, wherever those thoughts may be. And that's because we want to make sure we address both of those. Again, what's helpful to do kind of when you can't really talk to people or kind of dwell too much on the thoughts of what's going on back home, versus what can you do when you have some opportunity to connect with people or places or organizations that are back home. So we're thinking about the first half a month, or I'm thinking like first few weeks here. There's a lot of one of the common things you probably going to be true for everybody is you're going to meet a lot of people, and that's can be good, be bad. Not doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be friends with every single person, but stay connected with some of the people you meet. What I mean by that is, it's okay to ask for somebody's phone number, or email address, or Insta handle, or even room number. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're pledging to be their lifelong friend for the next year or 3 years or whatever. But just saying, hey, you seem kind of interesting. You may want to chat again, or may want to connect again. So connect with the people you meet, and then after a few days or a week goes by, that's a way to kind of feel like, okay, I'm still having some sense of belongingness. I'm part of a community, especially after having left what was a strong community for you, so abruptly. So doesn't mean that again you have to kind of fall out with the person you got that information from, or got the room number from. It's all right. Just that idea. Well, what stuck out to me was this person. Hey, they had a really cool take on that show that I like to watch. Maybe I want to talk to them later. Another thing that helps with that sense of sometimes feeling out of place, or feeling like, wow, all I'm thinking about are things back home, is having some things that you look forward to, and groups especially help that way. So think about student organizations, but also events. So Bear Fair happened a couple of weeks ago. I know Bear Stock is something that comes up in the spring. There's Quad Madness happening this week. So there's a lot of events that happen where, again, I'm not saying I'm going to stop thinking about home, but there's something else I want to think about too, whether it's that free ice cream or soda or meal or turkey leg or whatever that's going to be given out at the next fair on the quad, or whether it's going to be this group that's performing at Tatnall Square Park. or even that market, farmers market that goes on every week outside Tapas Brahma. So again, the basic idea. What can I find around me that I find interesting? Not that I'm forced into. If you feel like, wow, that's just couldn't be like watching paint dry. That's fine. Find something where you feel like this is something I'd look forward to doing, and at least for the time I'm doing it, I'm thinking about what's happening there. And similarly to that, I think about with schoolwork, especially with kind of the start of the semester, one of the most common ways people meet each other is, studying together, or talking about class, or talking about like how do I prepare for this test or whatever. So again, when you're homesick, or as I said, when you're thinking about what is the, what's happening back home, what's going on with the people I know back home, it's okay to follow that up with, and who can I talk to now that I would feel I'd be talking about something important with that important thing being class. So forming study groups, or even just find study partners, or even just kind of specific, hey, this test, I'm not quite sure what this question and how to best answer it. Shall we talk about that for a couple of minutes after class? That's a great starting point. I had a question of what is the farmers market goes on at Tatman Square Park, and I believe that happens on Wednesdays, but I can double check as we get to the end of this. I'm not sure if it's currently going on, but it was started last April, March, I think. So it tends to happen weekly. The specific day is the one that I'm not positive about. So staying with again the idea of kind of what can I do here. It's all right to have things that remind you of home. A lot of times people would say, "Oh, this is going to make you think more and more about what you're missing on," and that may happen. But more often than not, if you have something around you, you can see behind me there's a picture a friend gave me of a tapestry. There's a couple of coffee mugs. It's all things that I've had collected kind of in my different times living in different places. I look at them, it's it reminds me of those places, but it doesn't make me feel like, wow, I wish I could go back to just that point. So bring things like posters, or bring things like coffee mugs, or keychains, or even if you all have memory books that you all wrote together, whatever that might be helpful to have around you to remind you that okay, there's still some strong memories, but the memories are here with me, even if I'm thinking about what things are like back home. Lastly, in terms of what you can do here, is, and this may sound kind of counterintuitive, laying off social media. A lot of students have said, I'm doing okay, and then I start to look back at my high school group chat, or even my sports team's private message group, or even just some of the pictures that a friend posted now that they're 3 states away, and I saw that they were happy, and kind of made me miss that I wasn't with them. It's sad, but understandable, and a lot of times it's going to be all right to kind of see some of those things that remind us of what that person is, or where that person is, how it helps, or how it's kind of going for them, the good times we had with them. At the same time, if we spend a lot of time on social media, it reminds us of just that, like, wow, it looks like that person's having a really good time, and not missing their home, or not thinking back to kind of memories that we shared together. And that's where our mind starts to play tricks on us, because it's always hard to tell exactly kind of what a person's thinking when we see them on social media, and especially if it's somebody we haven't talked to in a few days or a few weeks, So when we're talking again about how do we manage that homesickness, or manage that idea of pulling ourselves from being overwhelmed by social media is something that can sometimes unfortunately lead to that. Right? So now, like I said, I want to talk about the other side of how to address this, which is when you do talk to people that you missed, or people that you remember from back home, or even just groups that you remember joining and being a part of. Like what helps there? Now again, remember that it's going to be normal and understandable that we all have these times where we are going to feel pulled away, feel a bit alone or a bit homesick, right? Because everything has changed. You've been pulled away from those people, from the surroundings, from the routines or the rituals, And what I mean by that is, some people say, I used to remember hearing my mom or dad getting up in the morning right around the time I was getting up for school. Or I used to remember this neighbor 2 houses down, their dog would always bark when I was coming home from school. Those are things that we may not really think covers, are very important. But because they're small things, they tend to be things that we've gotten used to. Some students said that they lived somewhat close to kind of a factory that wasn't the most pleasant to smell. But that smell was something that they kind of missed. It's like, wow, I used to smell that every day, and now I'm not. It's just a little off. So pay attention to kind of what is it that I miss, right? And what I mean by that is, if you explore that sense of missing something, do it through the 5 senses. And start with smell. Smell is going to be one of the strongest senses we have. And it's one of the ones that also tend to associate the strongest with memories. So, like the student said, wow, not getting that smell that was so familiar. Or, let's say, you always had the smell of coffee, even if you didn't drink coffee, it's okay. Or, alternately, the smell of certain cars or things that were on the road outside. Or, maybe this is a smell around the school that you went to, or in the neighborhood around the school that you went to. That's okay, because you're saying that, hey, I'm remembering these things that were both strong memories, but also things that remind me of how I felt about, that moment. School meant it's a little anxiety provoking maybe sometimes, but it's also a place where I saw people I knew. So starting with smell, and then going to, what's the first sound that comes to mind when I think of home, or my parents, or even my just my neighborhood. Some students have said they remember hearing the sound of TVs that their parents would always have on, or the sound of again cars and other trucks that were close by. One student that was talking about being on a farm said the noises of the different animals was something that she missed. And it's alright. So think about, okay, what are those noises that came up? And then taste. That may be strange, but taste can really strong, create a strong memory of home or of comfort. I think about that, people say, well, sometimes what my parents cooked could also be like a coffee shop that was down the street that had really good, coffee or hot chocolate. And the same with touch. Well, people say, well, there used to be a really solid wooden table that I'd always, sit on, or would kind of grip as I was trying to kind of, do some exercises or sit-ups or whatever. And I kind of miss that feeling, or that's the feeling that thinking about that makes me feel that I'm right there, that it's still, it's still with me. And lastly, the sense of sight. What's the sight that comes to mind when I close my eyes and think of home, family, friends, my neighborhood? That's different for everybody, but that's okay. So take some time to really kind of put those thoughts together and make that an intentional part. Say, I'm thinking about this, and that's not just okay, but it's a great thing to do, because you're exploring kind of what does this feel like? What does it feel like when I take myself back to that point? So, all right. Then, all right. Gonna have to kind of pause there, and we will see y'all next week. All right. And I hope that was helpful.